Yes, sir.
Cheers. Welcome to the TheMrShades show. We are reviewing some Disney Star Wars movies to lead up to the release of the new one. We started tonight with The Force Awakens.
About 40 minutes of it anyway.
Well, yeah. Anyway.
I've never seen Disney Plus have a stroke. It took about hour and a half. God damn it. Hour and a half to get through about 40 minutes of movie.
And so, Zach, what did you think of Force Awakens? Episode 7.
Admittedly, we're talking about a movie that at this point has came out almost 4 years ago.
Yes. Because, we weren't doing reviews at the time.
No. Even though the channel did exist at that point, which is funny. It was back when my channel existed. Funnily enough, it's one of those things that I always say that I never thought a Star Wars series could come out that would make the prequels look good. And then the sequels, whatever, came
Sequels.
out. I'm an idiot. Never promised to be smart. But the sequels came out, and The Force Awakens wasn't bad. Like, there's a lot of impressive elements. Like I said, when we were watching it, it's like they cared when they made it.
Yeah, lots of care went into the practical, the costumes,
the long takes, the one shots, the dialogue. There's a lot of
there's a lot of passion.
There's a feeling to it that the sequel lacks. So it's really, you have to look at both of them in regards to another, because a lot of people shit on The Force Awakens. There's a lot of bad about it.
I feel.
Yeah, there's a lot of bad about it, but there's also like a lot of good about it. Whereas The Last Jedi is more of the kind of shitty. Like it's more. They removed the shit which made it good.
Yeah, and for me, The Last Jedi is kind of like a Batman versus Superman situation for me. But anyway, this is The Force Awakens. So
we'll focus on it.
Yeah, the plot of this movie, a lot of people would say, is basically A New Hope. It's fair to say at this point.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of it is, like, if you've seen A New Hope, you've seen this. But there are, I feel, enough differences in the dynamics of the characters that make it just different enough that you don't really notice it when you're watching, that it's beat for beat almost.
Yes and no, because you still get that overarching feel. Like, it might not be beat for beat, but you know for a fact, like, okay, well, and it might be this the hero's journey thing. Well, they're gonna obviously blow up the big bad station.
Yeah,
it's gonna blow up this planet system that we don't really know anything about, because we had about the same level of love for Alderaan that we had for the fuck they blew up the Hosnian
system. I think it was. Yeah,
I knew the name. But like, so there is that, but. There's kind of that funny moment. It's like the Death Star, but bigger, and it's like
they
kind of point that out. It's
like,
you're gonna camera fuck that shit.
Or the point where it's like, how do we blow it up? There's always a way to, and it's like, come on, guys, really?
Yeah.
Like, you don't have to be that transparent about it.
You've only blown up 2, and of the second one, you weren't even there.
Yeah. So the plot is pretty standard, but I would say it's more reminiscent of the feeling of the originals as compared to the prequels. The prequels feel fairly different
and they had
from the OT.
They had to establish a feel for it.
Yeah.
They had to be like, hey, this is Star Wars. This is much more like the sequels or the original than the prequels, because the prequels had this distinct feel to them. And, And then, like, you can watch these 3 movies and see, okay, well, these are clearly different tones.
Yeah. And
they were trying to, like, okay, well, we're going to connect this to the tail end of it and then establish our own tone. And then they just forgot to do that. But that's for the next.
Yeah, so in this movie, really, you start off with the classic J.J. Abrams mystery box stuff, where it's like, who's this character?
Works good at the start of a movie.
What's this character's motivation? Who are they? What's their history? All of that. You get that. But you also get really great character moments between Oscar Isaac Jones and John Boyega, who are the best, I would say, in this trilogy.
Yes.
Thus far, like, they are the best characters in this movie. I also really like the change of dynamics between Hux and Kylo, whereas you can compare them to Darth Vader and Grand Moff Tarkin, where they're respectful towards each other. Whereas in this one, they are bickering at each other. They want to, if they could, they would kill each other.
Well, and you can see that, like, the other thinks the other is kind of whiny and uncontrollable, and in Huck's case, he's right. I fucking hate Kylo Ren. Even in the first movie, he's insufferable.
Yeah.
And the thing is, they set him up as this. They set him up as this great big villain, and then it just doesn't. Like, he's never a threat. He's never a threat. He's this whiny kid with a shitty lightsaber that he built in his backyard with a fucking Kinect set. Like, no.
Yeah. I saw an article saying that Kylo Ren's lightsaber is the most powerful. It's like, no, he barely built that thing. One day he could ignite it and it will explode in his hands.
God,
that's why it's unstable.
Well, and then he immediately has the hero fight with Rey. It's the first time she's ever touched a lightsaber, and she beats his ass in.
Yeah.
This is a guy who trained.
Yeah.
How much do you have to suck?
Even with him being wounded and stuff.
Yeah. With this dark side prowess in the Force, it's like, dude, how do you suck that much? How can you be this big threat and you're set up as this big villain and it's...
Yeah, they kind of undercut him.
They severely undercut. Like, he should never have fought her. Honestly, Kylo Ren should not have been part of it or been relegated to a side part. There's a lot that I would change if I was to make this movie. Mind you, I mean, realistically, to fix any part of it, you'd have to start from the start, write out a whole trilogy, and then go from
there. Yeah, that's clearly something they didn't do.
Force Awakens is a bit closer.
Force Awakens is a good setup, though.
It's a good setup. You'd have to rearrange it, but you can make it work, and that would give you a good launch pad for the next couple of movies. Or at least... Yeah. You know, because obviously you're going to make 3. It's Star Wars. If it's not a standalone movie, you're going to make multiple.
Yeah. So, like, as we said, the plot is standard to passable, but you like the characters enough that you enjoy watching this movie.
Well, and it's a spectacle. Like, that's the thing. It's got Disney money. It's Star Wars.
Yeah.
It's always going to be interesting to watch,
everything,
no matter how much it sucks.
Yeah, the visual side of this movie is fantastic.
Oh, yeah. And their use of practical, they're actually fairly heavy with.
Yeah.
And that makes life nice.
It makes a world of difference when you go with practical over CGI. I keep
trying to look at the movie in a vacuum and trying not to compare it to its follow-ups, but it's really hard to try to not
retroactively rate this lower because of where the franchise went. As opposed
looking
to...
at it as a standalone, like I remember the first time I watched it, I'm like, this was solid. Like, it wasn't phenomenal, but it was kind of what I was expecting.
Yeah, that's where I was with Force Awakens.
I wasn't expecting a cinematic masterpiece by any means. I would be impressed if that was the case, but not really, especially for the first setup movie. I'm like, okay, well, it was a setup movie. It's not going to be fantastic. Let's see where the next one goes, and where the next one goes for that. You know, it's a pretty good starting pad.
Yeah,
and you build on that. It makes the other one... Pad. Yeah, and then it's like, oh, these little details make it better by comparison. That's how you do a trilogy. So they had even with as kind of a shaky start as they had, I feel like The Force Awakens was a shaky start that could have led to something far greater.
Yeah.
And then could have made it work. Like, that'd be the shaky movie in the trilogy.
But also, as we're speaking, like, retroactively from Last Jedi, we gotta speak from, like, how this movie is so much better than the prequels. Because let's be honest, the only reason prequels have any relevance is the memes.
I disagree. The prequels are better than people give them credit to. Prequels are kind of like Nickelback. People like to jump on them and shit them. They've done a lot of but they've also done some good stuff. Admittedly, easily the weakest point of that is about 2/3 of Attack of the Clones. However, Obi-Wan fighting Jango, the whole battle of the droids in Geonosis.
Yeah,
that part's fucking
there was some
cool.
Great stuff.
Yoda whipping out a lightsaber.
Although the effects don't quite hold up, so you have to hold
but it's still a spectacle. That bit with the sandstorm and where there's they're firing laser tracers.
Like when you're hiding the effects, it looks good.
Well, not even that. Like, that bit's just cool. That's just downright cool, and that makes that, like, I would go back and look up that scene.
For the time, they were good, but like
but it's still entertaining.
Retroactively,
it's still entertaining. You can still go and watch that. Revenge of the Sith is still that opening scene is fucking awesome, even with the janky dialogue. And there's enough to keep you fucking going. The Phantom Menace has enough cool stuff going on. It's just, they're not complete. It's honestly, I would rate it and The Force Awakens at about the same level because there's really, really cool moments. The dialogue in The Force Awakens is kind of what pushes it up.
Yeah.
But they're still not phenomenal movies. Admittedly, The Force Awakens has a bit more to it.
For me, though, I could watch Force Awakens end to end. But if I wanted to watch a prequel movie, I would probably be skipping through some.
I could watch Revenge of the Sith end to end.
That one was easily the exception, yes. But like Attack of the Clones and Phantom, you're skipping through to see the cool parts.
Yeah.
So, but for Force Awakens, there's definitely you could sit down, get this full story, and then if that's all you've ever seen of Star Wars, that's fine. Like, you...
I feel like you need to see more Star Wars.
I mean, well,
there's bits you've been missing.
Yeah,
wow.
there's a lot. Like, if you watch Force Awakens, you're obviously gonna as your first Star Wars movie.
Yeah.
There's obviously a lot of questions you're gonna have. Like, when I went and saw it the first time, there were like little kids asking, "Oh, who's this character? Who's this character?" And it's like, okay, like you can give them that. Or like, and of course, this is also a big Disney movie. Disney was on fire in 2015, coming off like Frozen's like huge popularity for 2 years, and then they release Force Awakens, and then that just brings more people who are already aware of Disney into the Star Wars fandom, which was
the movie did phenomenal, and then people started looking at it with a bit of a critical eye, and that's kind of when it. I mean, it didn't. It's still a multi-billion-dollar grossing movie.
Yeah,
it doesn't.
You can't take
matter.
that away.
Disney succeeded on all accounts with that. They built
like
the franchise.
they and for the time they appeased the old fans. They brought in new fans. Like it was huge back in 2015. So like there's.
So here's the interesting thing, and I'm about to do a little bit of heresy here. When we look at the original trilogy, if you go back and watch those movies, are they as good as you remember?
No.
They're awesome, but they're not like masterpieces like people treat them as. No, don't get me wrong. I fucking love the original trilogy.
Like, but there are problems.
But there are problems, and you could regale them as being part of the times. Of course, same reason that Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones and even Revenge of the Sith, in my mind, kind of get a bit of a pass, is because they're working with what they have.
You look at the landscape of movies in those eras. They're.
That said, back then it was a whole different reason they were making those movies, a whole different pursuit, a different, But if we're looking in terms of just generally entertaining movies and stuff, the prequels are up there, or the current ones are up there.
Yeah.
But they're not cinematic masterpieces.
No, they're...
No Star Wars has ever been a cinematic masterpiece.
Yeah.
At least movie-wise. But that's a different a different video.
Yeah, like...
Once that whole series comes out.
We'll have to talk about that, but like...
As far as my feelings on that series, however, we're saving that shit.
Yeah. So, I guess final thoughts are, I would say, if you've never seen a Star Wars movie, this is a decent launching point, just to be like, to watch it and be like...
It's good to introduce you to the universe.
Who are these characters? Who's Han Solo? Who's Luke Skywalker? Then you go back and watch the OT, and you're like, okay, that's cool, but what's all this Anakin stuff? What's all of this Clone Wars stuff? Then you can go back and watch. Like there are, it's a good launching point to generate enough interest to go back.
I mean, I guess if you were starting from going backwards, my advice would be to start low and build your way up. Because if you don't know anything about Star Wars, you come to Phantom Menace, and you enjoy it, you're like, oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah,
it's only gonna get better. Second one, if you can get through it, and you get to enjoy, oh, that's cool, and you watch Revenge of the Sith, and it kind of like, okay,
and then you watch the original 1977 one, and it's just...
Well, honestly, that's the thing, is you should honestly just start with that, too.
Yeah, like, start in the way they were released.
The oldest ones, and kind of the chronological order.
Yeah.
But to more focus it, because we've been touching on the Force Awakens and comparing it to the others and kind of dodging away from it.
Yeah.
Is there a moment in Force Awakens that particularly stands out as remarkable, and is there a moment that stands out as either that shouldn't have been in the film, or it's just bad?
The standout moment?
Say you answer it and then I'll answer.
For me, the standout moment would definitely be like the when Finn and Poe first meet and their escape. That is
the legitimate joy.
It is so classic, and it's just it's great. Like, it's my favorite moment in the film because you get that classic Star Wars feel to it.
Yeah,
the kind of ragtag group of people
this is
pulling off the impossible.
Yeah.
It's classic Star Wars to me, and I love that. So, what is your standout moment? And then we'll get into the negative.
So, standout moment, as far as it goes, is probably right off the bat when the First Order's landing troops at that camp. That entire sequence. Not because I'm just a huge cinematography fan. I love practical effects, all that stuff. The whole how-to and how it's done. And that one, they basically built the camera on a roller coaster. But it's more just the feel of that. Is you get the feel of Star Wars. You're watching shit like that go down. But you're also getting this, modern day twist on it where it's like, oh, holy shit, all this is happening. It's all, you can clearly see shit's affecting other shit. People are shooting at shit. And then there's those funny little dialogue where Poe's mouthing off this big bad guy, and you don't expect it because you're expecting, Star Wars. You're like, oh well, you can't get it from me, and he's like, wait, okay, so do you talk? How I talk? Like it's that
it's that little bit,
a little bit of fuck you.
Yeah, that little bit of a little bit of subversion. That's Salt. Just like great.
Yeah, no, and I love stuff like that. So they had that whole setup, and that whole scene is great, and with the plasma bolt holding in midair, and then
like that, later. Like the whole opening of this movie up to the point where they crash land back on Jakku, Finn and Poe is fantastic.
Absolutely fantastic. Absolutely fantastic.
For negative moments, because I went first with Bess, what is your negative moment of the film?
So, while it looked cool, I'll give them points for the setting. I'll give them points for only using the lighting of the moon and the lightsabers to light the scene. I think there was a moon. I don't recall. But the fight between Rey and Kylo Ren just felt like it shouldn't have been in this movie. It should have been on the tail end of the second. It was rushed, it was preemptive, and she immediately whooped his ass. Now, beginner's luck, maybe. Oh, she's naturally super proficient with the Force. Why, though? How, though? You set up that she was a pilot, and that's a force ability, and that she was discovering her Force abilities, but there's a line between discovering that there's an effect and being able to fully use them to that extent, to be able to stand up in a sword fight. And admittedly, Kylo is shitty. He's untrained. You can tell by the way he's just bashing. But he's been bashing motherfuckers with a sword. He's using that to fuel himself, though. Yeah. At that point, it gives him an edge. And the fact that she cleanly whoops his ass. There's not even a question where she's he's batting her back. She is cleanly whooping his ass. So it's like, okay, well, this Kylo Ren guy is just this whiny, moany bitch that we got to put up with for the rest of the couple of movies that he's gonna be in. And it's like, if you wanted to make him a threat, have him chop off her arm or some shit or a leg. That's if I was gonna make the movie, it would have been a completely different thing. Kylo Ren either wouldn't have been in it or would have had a whole different role entirely. But if I was to rewrite that scene, Poe would have fucking died, and Rey would have lost a body part.
Oh, you mean Finn died?
Sorry, Finn died. And Poe, fuck it. He's charismatic, but you know what? And then Starkiller Base wouldn't have been blown up. That would have been the trilogy of them trying to take out this thing and smoke the First Order. I mean, again, if I was to remake the trilogy, that First Order shit would be going out the window. But different possible movie where you could kind of set aside and write down our versions of what we could do as a trilogy, and then see
that would make for an interesting video, I think, for you and I to go back and forth like that. But my negative moment, oh man, there's so
there's so many. It's hard to choose.
Well, it's not really that. It's just some of them are so insignificant to the rest of the film that it doesn't really take any points off. Yeah. I don't know, some of it. The one that's sticking out to me the most is the Han Solo not looking behind his back, shooting, and trying the crossbow out, and I don't know. For me, that just felt like
they were trying to make him over the top cool, and it's
he's Han Solo. He's cool enough. Let him be
Han Solo.
He shoots behind his back, and then he takes Chewie's crossbow and fires it, and it launches a guy, and it's
you've never tried this in the decades you've known each other?
Tried his own weapon. You've never thought to take his weapon once?
Looking definitely at the younger Han Solo, he'd absolutely grab his bowcaster and use it in a pinch. Yeah. And the fact that never
came for me, it's an insignificant thing, but it's a thing to me. No, anyway, it's as a fan,
takes you out of it, which is absolutely a thing. So, yeah. But on a whole, out of 10, since that seems to be a thing,
that's what we do. Yeah, out of 10,
our unofficial rating scale, which means nothing.
Yeah, because the scale of movies that we watch and review are so different, so each scale is completely useless. In the end, it all depends on who would watch this stuff. What would you give it out of 10?
Being blatantly honest, looking at it individually, ignoring where it went from there, just looking at that movie on its own, I give it an honest 6.75, 7 out of 10.
You see, I'm teetering on 8 and 7 because
it's not bad, it's not fantastic, there's moments, but on a whole, it feels like a Star Wars movie.
Yeah, and that's the important
twist kind of comes the big twist where Han Solo gets ganked is you kind of expect it in the moment, but you didn't when you walked in there, you didn't expect him to kill off Han Solo.
Yeah, there are moments like
I was
that.
Surprised they got
was,
Harrison Ford, back for another movie. But I'm thinking that's how they did it. Like, well, we'll get you come back, but we'll kill you.
The story was that nobody was going to do it unless Harrison did it. And Harrison did it, so then Mark and Carrie were like, "Oh, now we have to do it."
Yeah, right.
But
now we're trying.
For me, I'm teetering on a 7 and 8 because I like my theater experience when I saw this was filled with.
Yeah, I'm trying to think back.
Guys like me who are my age who grew up on Star Wars.
Loved it. Yeah.
And then like there's also like the nostalgia factor of going to the theater, seeing the last 2 prequels with my dad.
Seeing Star Wars. Yeah.
And then there's also like I saw it with so many people, and I saw it with my sister, her boyfriend, and his brother, and the whole time like I had already seen it at this point, and the whole time I'm just like during that scene where with Han Solo and Kylo on the bridge, I'm watching their reaction. So for that moment alone, I think like just theater experience is something I've become a little bit more aware of when I'm watching movies.
Okay, so that factors into how you view a movie as well. So how it's drawing the other audience into it.
So I'm honestly going to give it an 8 out of 10. Like it's
not unreasonable.
Like it hits every Star Wars beat. It feels like classic Star Wars because there's the passion, the practical effects, the dialogue.
Like we said, like it hits the same story beats as A New Hope. Yeah. But if you were building a trilogy, you'd start it in a similar beat and then take it a different direction, which they did with Han Solo. So there's it's not a bad starting point.
Yeah, so it's a good launching point.
Unfortunately.
But I think that's going to do it for this review. We talked, I think, fairly enough about it.
Yeah.
So thanks everybody for watching, and we'll see you next time.